Drayle had never seen his commander's hands shake before. In 40 years of service, Commander Thessa had faced pirates, rebels, and 3 border wars without flinching. Now her purple scales had gone pale, and her claws trembled as she gripped the sensor console. "Run it again," she whispered. "I have run it 17 times, Commander." Drayle's voice cracked. The readings are accurate. On the screen before them, a shape moved through the darkness of space. It was impossible. It was terrifying. It was real. The Varani Empire had ruled this sector of the galaxy for 2,000 years. Their warships were the largest ever built. The mighty Throne-class battleship stretched 4 kilometers from bow to stern. It was a symbol of imperial power, a mountain of metal and weapons that made other species tremble. The object on Drayle's screen was 12 kilometers long. Sensor Station Keth 7 floated at the edge of imperial space, watching for threats. In his 3 months here, Drayle had tracked merchant ships, patrol vessels, and the occasional smuggler. He had never tracked anything like this. "The energy signature," Thessa said, her voice hollow. "What does it show?" Drayle pulled up the readings. His stomach turned cold. "Commander, the power output exceeds. It exceeds a small star." "That is impossible." "Yes, Commander. But the sensors do not lie." Thessa straightened her spine. She was old, but she was not weak. Whatever this thing was, she would face it as a soldier of the Empire. "Open a channel to High Command. Priority Alpha. The Emperor himself must know of this." Drayle's fingers flew across the console. The message began to transmit. As it did, the station's communication array detected something else. An incoming signal. "Commander, we are receiving a broadcast." From the object, Thessa's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The speakers crackled. Then a voice spoke in perfect Imperial standard. It was smooth, calm, and somehow warm. "We come in peace. We wish to talk." The words hung in the air. Drayle and Thessa stared at each other. In 2,000 years of Imperial history, no unknown species had ever announced themselves this way. Enemies attacked. Allies negotiated through proper channels. No one simply appeared with a ship 3 times larger than anything in existence and asked to chat. "Run a trace on the voice pattern," Thessa ordered. "Find out what species we are dealing with." Drayle worked quickly. The computer searched through millions of records, cross-referencing language patterns and voice synthesis signatures. Most results came back empty. But deep in the ancient archives, buried in files that had not been accessed in centuries, the computer found a match. Drayle read the result 3 times before he could speak. "Commander, the voice pattern matches a species called human." Thessa's scales went from pale to white. "That cannot be correct. The humans are a minor species. Our intelligence reports say they have barely achieved faster than light travel. They control one small world on the far side of the galaxy. The records are old, Commander. Very old. But the match is 97% certain." On the screen, the massive shape continued its slow approach. It moved with the patience of a predator that knew nothing could stop it. Every few seconds, its energy signature pulsed, and sensors across the station flickered from the interference. Thessa made a decision. "Send everything to High Command. Full sensor logs, the broadcast, the species identification. Let them decide what to do." The transmission went out at maximum speed. Within minutes, a response came back. It was not from High Command. It was from Admiral Corvus himself, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet. His face appeared on the main screen. He was an old Varani, his scales scarred from a dozen battles, his eyes hard as stone. "Commander Thessa, your report has caused quite a stir. The Emperor is concerned. As am I, Admiral. I am dispatching the 3rd Battle Fleet to your position. 1,200 warships. Whatever this human vessel is, we will contain it." Drayle felt a wave of relief. 1,200 ships. The 3rd Fleet was legendary. They had crushed rebellions and broken enemy armadas. Surely they could handle one vessel, no matter how large. But Thessa did not look relieved. She looked at the shape on her screen, at the impossible readings, at the power signature that burned like a star. She had fought many battles. She knew what victory looked like and what defeat looked like. This looked like neither. "Admiral," she said carefully, "I recommend caution. We do not know what we are dealing with. We are dealing with one ship, Commander. One ship against 1,200. The humans have made a grave error coming here." Admiral Corvus smiled coldly. "They will learn the price of challenging the Varani Empire. The connection closed. Thessa stood in silence for a long moment. Commander, Drail asked, "Are you all right?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes held something he had never seen there before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. "Drail, I want you to do something for me. Send a personal message to my family. Tell them I love them." "Commander, the Third Fleet will be here soon. We are safe." Thessa shook her head slowly. "Boy, I have served the Empire for 40 years. I have seen things that would break most minds. And I am telling you now, I have never been more afraid than I am at this moment." She pointed at the screen, at the shape that grew larger with each passing minute. "That is not a ship. That is a message. And I do not think the Empire will like what it says." In the void, the human vessel continued its approach. It did not speed up. It did not slow down. It simply came, steady and unstoppable, like the tide. And somewhere in its depths, 50,000 humans waited to meet their new neighbors. 1,200 warships hung in the void like angry stars. Admiral Senna watched them from the bridge of her flagship, the Imperial Vengeance, and felt the power of the Varani Empire at her fingertips. This was the third battle fleet, the hammer of the Emperor, undefeated in 300 years. Against them floated one ship. One impossibly large ship, yes, but still just one. "All vessels report ready, Admiral," said Captain Voss, her second in command. He was an older officer, careful and experienced. "Weapons are charged. Shields are at full power." "Good," Senna smiled. This would be easy. The humans had made a terrible mistake coming here. "Order the forward squadron to fire warning shots. Let these humans know who rules this space." 300 ships moved forward. Their weapons blazed to life, sending beams of concentrated energy across the human vessel's bow. The light was blinding. The power was immense. The human ship did not react. It did not raise shields. It did not change course. It did not even slow down. It simply continued its steady approach, as if the most powerful weapons in the Imperial arsenal were nothing more than a light breeze. That Senna's smile faded. "What are they doing? Are they surrendering?" Tactical Officer Wren checked his console. "No surrender signal, Admiral. No communication at all. They are simply ignoring us." "Ignoring us?" Senna's voice rose. "No one ignores the Third Fleet. Order the main battery to fire." Direct hit on their hull. 100 ships opened fire. Their main weapons were designed to crack planets. The beam struck the human vessel dead center. The light was so bright that sensors across the fleet went dark for 3 seconds. When they cleared, every officer on every ship stared at their screens in disbelief. The human ship was unmarked. Not a scratch. Not a scorch mark. Nothing. "Impossible," Voss whispered. "Those weapons can punch through mountains." Wren's hands shook as he analyzed the readings. "Admiral, the hull. I have never seen anything like it. The armor is layered at the molecular level. Each layer absorbs a different type of energy. Our weapons are being scattered before they can do any damage." Senna gripped her command chair. "Then we hit them with everything. All ships, full attack. Do not stop until that thing is dust." The third battle fleet unleashed its full fury. 1,200 warships fired every weapon they had. The void lit up like a sun being born. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bursts, kinetic rounds. Everything the Varani had built over 2,000 years of warfare poured into that single target. For 3 hours, the attack continued. Ships rotated out to recharge, then rotated back in. The assault never stopped. When the order finally came to cease fire, the fleet had exhausted 40% of its ammunition. Officers collapsed at their stations from exhaustion. The void was filled with the smell of overheated systems and burnt circuits, and the human ship floated there, completely untouched. "Admiral," Wren's voice was barely a whisper. "A shuttle is detaching from the human vessel." The small craft moved toward the Imperial Vengeance. It was tiny, no bigger than a standard transport. Every ship in the fleet targeted it. "Fire," Senna ordered. They fired. Nothing happened. The shuttle's shields deflected everything. As if the weapons of 1,200 warships were toys, the shuttle docked with the flagship. Senna drew her sidearm. 50 soldiers surrounded the airlock. The door opened. A single figure stepped out. It was a human female. She was shorter than most Varani, with brown hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a simple gray uniform with no weapons visible. In her hands, she carried a small metal box. She looked at the guns pointed at her and smiled gently. "Hello." My name is Nina Wells. I am an ambassador from Earth. Her voice was soft and warm. I apologize for the confusion earlier. We did not mean to frighten you. Senna stepped forward, her weapon raised. You dare come here after we attacked you? Are you insane? You did not attack us, Admiral. You greeted us. In our culture, when strangers meet, they often test each other. We understand you were testing our strength. We hope we passed. Senna did not know what to say. This human spoke as if having a fleet fire on you for 3 hours was perfectly normal. Nina Wells lifted the box. We have brought a gift for your emperor. We noticed your people are suffering from a terrible plague. We have developed a cure. The room went silent. The wasting plague had killed 20 million Varani in the last decade. There was no cure. Entire worlds had been quarantined. What? Senna demanded. Why would you help us? We just tried to destroy you. Nina Wells tilted her head, as if the question confused her. Because you are suffering. Because we can help. Is there another reason needed? Senna stared at the human. This small, soft creature had just watched an empire throw its greatest weapons against her people, and her response was to offer medicine. Either humans were the greatest fools in the galaxy, or they were something else entirely. Something the Varani had never encountered. Senna lowered her weapon. She did not know if she was making the right choice, but she knew that nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. I will take you to the Emperor, she said. But know this, human. If you are lying, if this is some trick, I will find a way to make you pay. Nina Wells nodded. Her smile never wavered. I understand, Admiral. But I promise you, we have nothing to hide. We only want to help. And for reasons she could not explain, Senna believed her. The throne room of Vorin Prime had seen many things in its 1,000-year history. Conquering generals had knelt here. Rebel leaders had been executed here. Treaties had been signed that shaped the fate of billions. But it had never seen anything like the small human woman in chains. Emperor Kelos IV sat on his throne of black crystal, watching Nina Wells with ancient, tired eyes. He was old, even by Varani standards. His scales had faded to gray, and his body was thin beneath his ceremonial robes. But his mind was still sharp, and his will was still iron. Around him stood his advisors. High Priest Merrick, keeper of the old faith, glared at the human with open hatred. General Thorn, commander of all Imperial forces, kept his hand near his weapon. Only advisor Lissa, the youngest of the council, watched with curiosity instead of fear. You come to my world, the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the hall, with a ship that mocks our power. You survive weapons that should destroy stars. And now you offer gifts. He leaned forward. Tell me, human, why should I not kill you where you stand? Nina Wells stood straight despite the heavy chains. Because killing me would serve no purpose, Your Majesty. We mean you no harm. High Priest Merrick stepped forward. Lies. The ancient texts speak of beings from a death world who would come bearing false gifts. They are called the Destroyers. They will smile as they conquer us. I am not here to conquer anyone, Nina said calmly. I am here because your people are dying, and we can help. She nodded toward the box that guards had taken from her. It sat on a table nearby, still sealed. Inside that container is a cure for your plague. Microscopic machines that will hunt down the disease and eliminate it. No side effects. No cost. A gift freely given. General Thorn laughed, but there was no humor in it. A gift from a species that has a warship larger than anything we have ever built. What do you truly want, human? Our worlds? Our resources? Our submission? We want nothing. The room fell silent. Even the Emperor seemed surprised. Nothing, Kelos asked. You travel across the galaxy with a weapon of unimaginable power, and you want nothing. Nina Wells met his eyes. We have everything we need, Your Majesty. We came because we detected your distress signals. Your plague has been broadcasting suffering across the stars for years. We heard it. We came to help. Advisor Lissa spoke for the first time. Your Majesty, perhaps we should test the cure. If it works, we have saved millions of lives. If it fails, we have lost nothing but time. And if it is poison? Merrick demanded. If this human seeks to kill us all with her medicine, then we die from their poison instead of our plague, Lissa replied. Either way, our people are dying. At least this way, there is hope. Emperor Kelos was silent for a long moment. He stared at Nina Wells, searching her face for deception. He saw none. She looked back at him with eyes that held no fear, no hatred, only a strange sadness he thought of his daughter. She had been young and beautiful, the joy of his ancient heart. The plague had taken her 1 year ago. He had held her hand as she died, powerless despite all his armies and wealth. If this cure had come 1 year earlier, test it, he ordered. Find volunteers from the worst plague zones. If the cure works, we will speak further. The cure worked. Within 3 days, dying patients began to recover. The plague that had resisted every Varani treatment melted away before the human nanomachines. Word spread across the empire like fire. The humans had come not as conquerors, but as healers. Emperor Kelos summoned Nina Wells to his private chambers. This time, there were no chains. There were no guards. Just an old ruler and a young ambassador, sitting across from each other as equals. The cure has saved thousands already, Kelos said. By the end of the month, it will have saved millions. My advisors tell me this is the greatest medical gift in our history. I am glad it helped. I must know why. The emperor's voice was raw. I have ruled for 60 years. I have conquered worlds. I have crushed rebellions. I have done terrible things in the name of power. In all that time, no one has ever given me anything without wanting something in return. He leaned forward. What do you want, Nina Wells? Tell me the truth. Nina was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. Your Majesty, humans come from a harsh world. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Extreme heat, extreme cold, dangerous animals, deadly diseases. We survived because we learned to help each other. When one tribe suffered, another would share food. When a village faced disaster, strangers would come to rebuild. She met his eyes. We know what it is to suffer. We know what it is to feel alone in that suffering. When we heard your people crying out across the stars, we could not ignore it. We came because it was the right thing to do. Emperor Kelos felt something he had not felt in decades. His eyes grew wet. A tear rolled down his aged face. I do not understand you, he whispered. You have power beyond measure. You could rule this galaxy. Instead, you give away cures and ask for nothing. Nina smiled gently. Perhaps that is the difference between us, Your Majesty. You see power as a reason to take. We see it as a reason to give. She stood and bowed. I hope we can be friends. The galaxy is large and dark. It is better to face it together. She left the Emperor alone with his thoughts. For the first time in 60 years, Kelos did not know what to do. His entire life had been built on strength and dominance. The humans had shown him another way, and he was not sure the Empire was ready for it. The message spread across the Empire in hours. Humans had cured the plague. Humans had saved millions. Humans had asked for nothing in return. On 100 worlds, people celebrated. They danced in the streets. They praised the strange aliens who had come from across the galaxy with medicine and kindness. Governor Sala of the Outer Provinces gave a speech calling the humans saviors. She demanded alliance with them. But not everyone celebrated. In the dark halls of the military council, Lord Commander Vex slammed his fist on the table. Around him sat the leaders of the purist faction, those who believed the Empire must destroy all threats before they grew too strong. Fools, Vex snarled. Every single one of them. The humans are not saviors. They are invaders wearing a mask. The cure is real, one of his officers said carefully. My own daughter was saved by it. And that is exactly what makes them dangerous. Vex stood and paced the room. Think about it. They arrive with a ship we cannot scratch. They survive our greatest weapons. And then they give us medicine that saves our children. What better way to make us lower our guard? He pointed at the map showing human vessels' position. That ship could destroy our entire fleet. Instead, it floats there peacefully, making us love them. And when we are soft, when we have forgotten how to fight, they will strike. The officers exchanged uncertain looks. Vex saw their doubt and pushed harder. We have one chance. One weapon they do not know about. The Singularity Bomb. Silence fell. The Singularity Bomb was a secret project, known only to the highest levels of command. It created a tiny black hole that devoured everything nearby. It had never been tested on a living target. If we destroy their ship now, Vex continued, we eliminate the threat. Yes, some will call us monsters. But history will remember us as the ones who saved the Empire. 3 days later, a small purist squadron approached the human vessel under the cover of a diplomatic visit. Hidden in the lead ship was the Singularity Bomb. They fired it at point-blank range. For one terrible moment, A black hole bloomed at the heart of the human ship. Space itself screamed as reality tore apart. Every sensor in the system went blind. When the light cleared, the Varani expected to see debris. They expected victory. The human ship was intact. Its reactor had somehow contained the singularity, then dispersed it into harmless energy. The most destructive weapon the Empire had ever built had done nothing. On the human vessel, Captain Mira watched the attack on her display screen. She was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, a veteran of a dozen first-contact missions. She had seen species react with fear before, but this was extreme even by those standards. "Should we respond?" asked Pilot First Class Danny Cole. He was young, barely 25, and still new to deep space missions. "No." Mira shook her head. "If we fire back, we prove their fears right. We are not here to fight. We are here to help. But they just try to kill us. They tried to kill what they fear. There is a difference." Ambassador Nina Wells contacted Lord Commander Vex directly. Her face appeared on his screen, calm and sad. "Lord Commander, I know you are afraid. I understand. We are strangers with power you cannot match. But we are not your enemies." Vex glared at her. "Pretty words. You expect me to believe them. I expect nothing. But I offer you something. Come aboard our ship. See everything. Our history, our technology, our people. No secrets. No lies. Then decide for yourself what we are." Vex laughed bitterly. "A trap. You think I am stupid. I think you are brave enough to find the truth." Nina paused. "Or are you only brave enough to attack from hiding?" The insult struck home. Vex cut the connection. Meanwhile, in the garden deck of the human ship, Danny Cole was making an unexpected friend. Her name was Temi. She was a Varani child, only 8 years old, whose family had fled the plague zones as refugees. The humans had taken them in, given them shelter and food. Temi had been terrified at first. The human ship was massive and strange. The humans themselves looked so different, so alien. She had hidden behind her mother and refused to speak, but Danny had been patient. He showed her the gardens, where humans grew vegetables and flowers. He let her touch the soft petals of roses and smell the sweet scent of jasmine. "Why do you grow these?" Temi asked in her small voice. "You are warriors. Warriors do not grow flowers." Danny knelt down to her level. "We are not warriors, Temi. We are gardeners. But your ship has weapons. Big weapons. I saw them. Yes, we have weapons to protect the garden. But the garden is what matters. The flowers, the food, the people we love. That is who we are. Fighting is just what we do when someone threatens what we care about." Temi thought about this for a long time. Then she picked a small yellow flower and held it up. "Can I keep this?" Danny smiled. "It is yours." From across the empire, the reformist and purist factions gathered their forces. Governor Sala led a fleet to protect the humans. Lord Vex rallied his followers for one final assault. Civil war was coming. And the humans, who had come only to help, found themselves at the center of a storm they had never wanted. Nina Wells stood at the observation window, watching Varani ships move into position against each other. "We have to stop this," she said quietly. "How?" Mira asked. "They are not fighting us. They are fighting each other." Nina closed her eyes. "There has to be a way. There is always a way." She just had to find it before an empire tore itself apart. 3,000 warships faced each other in the darkness above Voron Prime. On one side, the reformist fleet flew under Governor Sala's banner. On the other, Lord Commander Vex commanded the purists. Between them floated the human vessel, silent and still. Admiral Kor stood on the bridge of the reformist flagship, his heart heavy. He had served the Empire for 30 years. He had never imagined he would point his weapons at fellow Varani. "All ships report ready," his officer announced. "We can fire on your command." Kor did not respond. He stared at the purist fleet, at ships crewed by people he had trained with, fought beside, called friends. Today, they would try to kill each other over beings they barely understood. On the purist side, Commodore Pell felt the same weight. He had joined Vex because he feared the humans. Their power was too great. Their kindness was too perfect. Something had to be wrong. But now, looking at the reformist ships, he only felt tired. Tired of fear. Tired of suspicion. Tired of waiting for enemies that never came. "Commodore, Lord Vex is ordering all ships to attack position." Pell nodded slowly. His hand hovered over the command console. One touch, and the battle would begin. Then the human ship broadcast to both fleets that a woman's face appeared on every screen. She was older than Ambassador Wells, with gray hair and lines around her eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. When she spoke, her voice was calm and sad. "My name is Captain Wei. I command this vessel. Before you destroy each other, I would like to tell you a story." Lord Vex shouted across the channel. "We do not want your stories, human. We want you gone." "I understand." Captain Wei did not argue. "But please, listen, just for a moment." Something in her voice made the fleets pause. Even Vex fell silent. "Humans nearly destroyed ourselves once," Wei said. "Long ago, before we reached the stars, we had weapons that could end all life on our world. We divided into factions, just like you. Each side was certain the other was evil. Each side was ready to die rather than surrender." She paused. "We came so close to extinction. Missiles were launched. Cities burned. Billions died in a single day." The Varani listened. They had read intelligence reports about human history, but hearing it from a human voice was different. The pain in her words was real. "We survived," Wei continued. "Barely. And in the ashes, we learned the hardest lesson any species can learn. The enemy is never the other side. The enemy is fear itself. Fear makes us hate. Fear makes us fight. Fear makes us destroy the things we should protect." She looked directly at the screen, as if she could see every Varani watching. "You are afraid of us. I understand. We arrived with power you cannot match. We offered help you did not ask for. Your fear is natural, but fear is not truth." Captain Wei gave an order. Every Varani officer saw the human ship's shields flicker and die. The massive vessel was now completely unprotected. "We will not fight you," Wei said. "Not because we cannot, but because we choose not to. If destroying us will bring you peace, then destroy us. We will not resist." Silence. Absolute silence across 3,000 ships. Lord Vex recovered first. "It is a trick. They want us to lower our guard. Then fire," Wei replied. "We will not stop you." Vex stared at his screen. The human ship floated there, defenseless. One shot could end it. He had dreamed of this moment for weeks. But monsters did not offer themselves up for slaughter. Monsters fought. Monsters schemed. Monsters did not bare their throats to their enemies. "All ships, prepare to fire," Vex ordered. His officers hesitated. On the purest flagship, crew members exchanged looks. They had families saved by human medicine. They had friends in the reformist fleet. And now they were being asked to destroy beings who would not even defend themselves. "Lord Commander," Commodore Pell said slowly, "I cannot follow that order." Vex spun around. "What did you say?" "I said no." Pell straightened his spine. "I joined you because I was afraid. But I will not kill people who refuse to fight. That is not war. That is murder." Across the purest fleet, other ships began to signal their agreement. Captains who had followed Vex out of fear now questioned their choice. The human offer of peace had broken something in them, some wall of hatred they had built to justify their actions. Vex looked around wildly. His fleet was falling apart. His great crusade was crumbling. "Cowards," he snarled. "All of you. If none of you will act, I will." He grabbed the controls of his flagship and aimed straight at the human vessel. Full speed. A ramming attack. His crew tried to stop him. There was a struggle on the bridge. When it ended, Vex was in restraints, and his first officer had taken command. "Stand down," the officer broadcast. "All purist ships, stand down. This war is over." Emperor Kelos had watched everything from his palace. Now he addressed his people. His voice, old and tired, carried across 1,000 worlds. "I have ruled this empire for 60 years. In that time, I have learned many things about power. I thought power meant dominance. I thought it meant crushing anyone who threatened us." He paused. "The humans have shown me I was wrong. True power is the ability to help. True strength is the courage to be vulnerable. They came to us with weapons that could destroy us, and they used them to save us instead." His voice hardened. "There will be no more war with the humans. They are not our enemies. They are our teachers, and if we are wise, we will learn from them." The fleets lowered their weapons. Ships that had been ready to fire on each other now drifted peacefully. The civil war that had nearly consumed the empire ended without a single shot on the human ship. Captain Wei closed her eyes and let out a long breath. "Did we do it?" Danny Cole asked. Wei smiled tiredly. "We did something. Now we see if it lasts. Through the observation window, the lights of the Varani fleets winked in the darkness. For the first time in weeks, they looked like stars instead of threats. Peace had come. Now came the harder work of keeping it. 10 years had changed everything. Temmie stood on the observation deck of the human vessel, watching Voron Prime turn slowly below. She was 18 now, tall and strong, her purple scales bright with youth. On her uniform was a badge that marked her as the first Varani to serve on a human crew. Beside her stood Danny Cole, older now, with lines at the corners of his eyes. But his smile was the same one he had shown a frightened child in a garden, all those years ago. "It is strange," Temmie said softly. "I remember when I first came here. I thought this ship was a monster. Now it feels like home." "Home is not a place," Danny replied. "It is the people who make you feel safe." Below them, the planet gleamed with new light. Cities that had been dying from plague now thrived. Factories built with human technology produced medicine and food for worlds across the sector. The Varani Empire had not fallen. It had transformed, but today was special. Emperor Kelos had come aboard the human vessel for the first time. He wanted to understand these beings who had changed his world. Ambassador Nina Wells, her brown hair now streaked with gray, guided the old ruler through the ship. They passed gardens and workshops, schools and hospitals. 50,000 humans lived here, along with members of 12 other species. "You have built a world inside a ship," Kelos said, his voice filled with wonder. "Not just weapons and armor, but life. That was always the point." Nina smiled. "The ship is just a shell. The people inside are what matter." She led him deeper, to a chamber he had never seen in any intelligence report. The walls were covered with screens showing faces, thousands of them, their eyes moving and their lips occasionally speaking in silent conversation. "What is this place?" Kelos asked. "This is the archive." Nina's voice grew soft. "These are humans who chose to preserve themselves digitally. When their bodies grew old, they uploaded their minds to this system. They guide us now, sharing wisdom from centuries of experience." One of the screens flickered. A face focused on the Emperor, an old man with kind eyes. "Welcome, Emperor Kelos. My name was Samuel. I was a historian before I joined the archive. I have watched your species for 10 years now. You have done well." Kelos bowed his head. "I have tried. Your people showed me a different path. We showed you nothing." Samuel smiled. "We only held up a mirror. The choice to change was yours." The Emperor had one more question. It had burned in him for a decade. "Why did you build this ship? You could have stayed on your world. You could have ignored the galaxy. Why come all this way with weapons that could conquer everything?" Nina looked at the screens, at the thousands of preserved minds watching and listening. Then she led the Emperor to a small window. Outside, the stars stretched into infinity. "Humans once believed we were alone," she said. "We looked at the sky and saw only emptiness. When we finally left our world and found others, we discovered something painful. Most species we met were either hostile or terrified. They attacked us, or they ran from us. We were still alone, even surrounded by life." She turned to face him. "We built this ship to prove something. Not to prove our strength, though we are strong. To prove that power does not have to mean destruction. That being the most dangerous thing in the room means you have the greatest responsibility to be gentle." From the archive, a chorus of voices spoke as one. Hundreds of preserved minds, centuries of accumulated wisdom. "We could conquer the galaxy. We have the technology. We have the ships. But conquest means nothing. It fades. Empires fall. What we build with kindness, what we grow with patience, that is what lasts." Kelos felt tears on his face. He did not try to hide them. "I wasted so many years," he whispered. "So many lives lost to my pride. If I had known sooner." Nina took his hand. Her grip was warm and firm. "The past cannot be changed, but the future is unwritten. You have 10 years of good work behind you. You have decades more ahead. That is what matters now." The Emperor nodded slowly. He straightened his spine and wiped his eyes. "Then let us continue the work. My people have much to learn." Later, Temmie found Danny on the garden deck. He was planting flowers, as he always did when he needed to think. She sat beside him and helped, her clawed hands gentle with the delicate stems. "Do you think there are others out there?" she asked. "Other species who need help?" Danny smiled. "There always are. The galaxy is full of fear and suffering, but it is also full of hope. Every time we reach out, we find someone reaching back. He looked at her, this young Varani who had grown up on a human ship, who had learned to see the universe through different eyes. That is why we keep flying, Temi. Not to conquer, not to prove ourselves, but to find the ones who are lost in the dark and show them they are not alone. Temi looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, another species was crying for help. Another world was drowning in fear. Another people was waiting for someone to show them a better way. She thought of the frightened child she had been, hiding behind her mother on a ship full of strange aliens. She thought of the flower Danny had given her, the first gift she had ever received from a human. She still had that flower, pressed and preserved, hanging on the wall of her quarters. "Then let us go find them," she said. Danny nodded. He stood up, brushed the dirt from his hands, and offered one to her. Together, hand in hand, Human and Varani walked toward the bridge. Behind them, the garden bloomed with life. Above them, the stars waited to be explored. The Empire had once panicked at the sight of a human warship. They had feared it was a weapon of destruction. They had been wrong that it was a seed of hope. And it was still growing.